What's up, everybody? My name's Colton Lee, and welcome to One More for Safety. Today, my guest is Dan Flint. Dan is drummer for the phenomenally successful band You Me at Six, who have a brand new record coming out January 15th, which should be today by the time you're seeing this, called Sucker Punch, which I was lucky enough to mix a couple tunes on. We talked about the recording process, how they were recording in Thailand, and how they were writing, and how they kept the process fresh and fun, and just all around caught up and had a nice chat. So hope you enjoy it. Fucking happy release week. This is
I know
fucking
literally
exciting, dude.
Midnight tonight, man.
Yeah. How does it feel after this, like, all the bullshit that 2020 had to throw at everybody? How does it feel to like finally have this be out?
It's obviously like stressful, isn't it? You know, but with this whole thing, but it's just nice to finally get the music out there because it feels like it's been so long. What we were in Thailand like last November, November 2019. So it's just nice to fucking get it out. You know, my God.
Yeah, fucking. You mentioned Thailand. What was sort of the writing and recording process like for you guys? Did you show up to Thailand with some sort of fleshed out demos, or did you just kind of get to Thailand and do some of the writing in studio, or is it just kind of a little bit of both?
We did a bit of both. We had quite a few tracks like made. Obviously we're in my sort of home studio here, so we do like a hell of a lot in here building demos. Like I do have drums set up, mic'd up, but it's quite rare that I'll end up playing them, usually for ease of demos. Like I enjoy building drums like with tracks now.
Yeah.
And it was actually really since like the Night People record that we made together, when, you know, we started to dabble in it then. That's when this place was first built, and it was like, you know, didn't have a clue what we were doing.
Right.
But it was sort of experimenting with it over that record, and then seeing someone else and giving our music away to I can't remember the guy's name now. It's sort of it's gone, but because it was so many years ago. But going to his studio and watching him sort of build other tracks and putting synths in, it's one of those things. I think me and Max sat in on that session.
Oh, with Tim.
Yeah, with Tim. That's it.
Tim Lauer. Yeah.
We were like, this is so musical. This should be a band thing. This should be what the band is doing. So yeah. I think it was kind of from there that it's kind of, we've been like that, you know, that's what we want to do. And I enjoy building tracks, and I enjoy building drums like in that way, in that sense. So I think a lot of records, like our last two, and especially Sucker Punch, it started from computers and it started from synths, and it started that way. So we'll build tracks and have fun. So very, very rarely will I play drums before we actually get into like the big studio to record them. And then I have to go, right, how do I recreate this beat, or how do I make this loop that I've made on a real instrument? And that's when the real fun starts to happen, I think, especially with Dan Austin. Like we just make crazy loops and then pick the right ones and almost paste things in where we want them to sound cool. So we do that, and you know, there's a lot of ideas there. There's a lot of couple of finished tracks, like in terms of song finished tracks, production or recording. But then there was Our House on Fire, which has been out for a while. I wrote that me and Josh wrote that in, I had a little set, because I've always got to have a setup now, really. I'm so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
We wrote that in my bedroom in Thailand. And so that track sort of flowed together one evening when other people were doing guitars or whatever in the studio. And we threw out sort of Our House on Fire one evening and came into the guys and was like, well, we're doing this tomorrow now. And then, and What You Doing Right Now, which is obviously the first song that got mixed, that you mixed.
Yeah.
That was also made. I sort of, me and Josh were like having a bit of a swim in the pool and playing a bit of volleyball. And we were listening to sort of quite a lot of like hip hop and other styles of music and talking about music so much. I went off into my room and started building this track.
Yeah.
He went off into his room, found a couple of loops that he liked, and started building some lyrics and melody ideas. And it happened to be that when we came back together that evening, they were both in the same key.
Oh,
and we were like, well, your part is the verse, my part is the rest of it in the chorus. Like, and then we just had a few drinks that evening in my bedroom. in Studio D, we were calling it. It was beautiful, like
Oh
it's
man.
huge, great big bedroom, lovely, sort of all windows open to sort of look like the jungle of Thailand. And we put that track together that evening. And I think once the guys were out of the studio finishing doing some other things, it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, we were like, come into my bedroom, and everyone's like sat on my bed all together. We were like, here's what you're doing right now. And we were like, we're gonna go. We think we should record it like tomorrow or like in the next day or two. And that's it. The song came out, and it was, it's beautiful to see it that way, because something that didn't exist all of a sudden was alive within 2 or 3 days. And it's become quite a standout track of the record for us. And I think when it comes out, it's going to be a huge one.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I remember. I remember when you sent that to me as like the first one to sort of take a stab at mixing. I was like, whoa, this is fucking like it. It's not different in a sense that it's not Yumi at 6, but it's just it felt new in this like really exciting way. And to hear the backstory of that is like, that's just so fucking cool that you just both happen to be working in the same key and then come together and been like that like never happens, right? Like that's
never
such a rare
happens.
thing.
Like that's it. And I think, people have described, because we're getting all the reviews in now, and people are sort of describing the album as quite genre mashing.
Yeah.
And I think it is, like, we are a rock band essentially, but like that verse sounds like J. Cole.
Right.
It's
that,
like
flute
you know
thing
what I mean?
and,
the flute going off, and like it's like a loop going around, and the drums are so like super hip hop and all that, and then it drops to this big kind of euphoric moment. So it's like it is like, and I think there was a risk that people wouldn't understand what we were trying to do, but it seems to be paying off.
Yeah.
It seems to be working.
Well, you guys have found a really nice balance in a way to keep introducing new genres and new elements that you're still able to keep the core of the band, because it's obviously you guys are still there. So it's the core of the band still comes through, and it's still Yumi, but it's you're able to really introduce these cool new elements in a way that I hadn't really seen you guys do that much until you guys. This is your second record with Dan Austin, right?
Yeah. It's the second one with Dan, and I think that this is the first time that it's like we've been able to be super creative and go in with like a bit of an open palette into a studio. Usually you spend so much time in pre-production, and your album has to pretty much be finished before you go. But with like, we don't have any label pressure whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
We funded the album ourselves, so it was like, we're gonna book Thailand.
Right.
Like, our management are like, do you have the music? And we're like, whatever. Like, we go in, we're like, see you later. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. Type of thing. Yes, that's it. Like, we're confident in ourselves. Like, we've done this for so long, and I think taking every track, like Night People again was the first time we'd done a song by song basis style of recording. Yeah. Rather than, Cavalier Youth with Neil Avron, amazing experience, but I played all of the drums in the first 2.5 days.
Oh, okay.
So how can you be creative rhythmically after the first 2.5 days? Like, we moved studios, there's no drums and nothing.
Yeah, you're fucking locked. You're locked.
Yeah, you start repeating yourself if you're playing drums for 12 hours all day, you know, on different songs. So it means that every song has its moment in the sun,
Yeah. So working with Dan in Thailand on this one, were you sort of just building as you go and like leaving the drums up and it's sort of like, ooh, I want to see what it's like with this, and you can kind of just change on the fly and sort of keep evolving as you go. All the time. Yeah, keep building. And there was some that just fit together perfectly straight away, and there was others where like 2 weeks later you were chipping away at it. And I think even a song like Sucker Punch, like, it's title track of the album. Yeah. And it was such an important song for us. It was almost like it was so long for us to get that right, because we knew that it was going to be a good song. Yeah. And it was one of those ones where we were just like, no, we haven't got it. And we have to keep going back to it. And I think having the drums set up the whole time and having all the instruments set up all the time, you can have any moment of inspiration and go, we should try this. We should try that. Right. And the creativity just flowed non-stop. And I think we were never precious about anything as well. If I was like, scrap those drums, we're going to do them again. Yeah. We'll go do them again.
Like we were there just having fun and making sure that like the music was going to be as good as it could be, you know?
Right. I think that's a really fascinating and fun way to approach it, and that's an approach I haven't really had the luxury of taking too much in the last couple of years, but it's something I'm getting into a lot more now. Of like, I think on the next project I do, I might even just save drums for last. And like, we can program some drums and put some shit in, but like, we'll have placeholders, and then that way the song can kind of show us what it is before we get too locked into an arrangement.
Too deep. Or like, you know, sometimes I just do, and I love now to record the kit separately. I love playing grooves and things like that, but cymbals and the bottom half of the kit have to really be separate for me. And half the time I have to go and work out how I'm going to play it live afterwards, because, you know, I've only got 2 hands and 2 legs, but I'll be playing some sort of beat on the toms and the snares, and that'll be the bottom half. Right. And then on the cymbals, rather than just them being hits on the ones and the this, that, and the other, you know, I'm swirling in and sort of playing around the cymbals like they're an actual instrument themselves. So it's all so secluded, and it's all rhythmical, and it's all meant to be there for a purpose. So I think sometimes what's great is to get the bottom half of the kit down, or like the groove down, and then move on, start building other things. Yeah. And actually then, because you know, drums and actually the rhythmical side of things is so important to a track. It's the bedding of a track. Yeah. You know, if you get too locked into that, the song can't really ever change. Right. Too much. So I think that always leaves you open to go, oh, we want to add that. We know in the back of our mind, we want to add that hi-hat piece in there. We want to add this in here. We'll do that at a later date. We'll get some guitars in, get some vocals in, and start to build things up in different places as to where they need them. Yeah. Because who knows, the hi-hat part that I'm thinking of, it might get replaced by a guitar part that actually is doing the same thing. Yeah. You might stumble onto something that like is a really cool and unique way to implicate the same thing that the hi-hat might have been doing. But now it's completely new and fresh idea that's not like a hi-hat that you might go like, what the fuck is that sound? It's like, oh, that's a guitar that we chopped and screwed into place, and it works. Or what Dan loves to do is like when people make mistakes or even hit their guitar in the wrong place, he's going to chop that up and distort it and then turn it into some sort of thing that sounds like a hi-hat, and then we sample it and use it, and then we don't need the hi-hat anymore because we just made this cool sample. And you also get to relive all your mistakes over and over as you exactly. Oh, that thing there, that was when I fucked it up.
Fuck.
There's so many things on the record that you just wouldn't believe, where it's just me like coughing or something like that in between takes, and he's turned it into something ridiculous. Like it's just wild. But that's it. Everything can be used creatively, you know? Yeah.
I mean, I gotta take my hat off to Dan Austin for the work he's done on this record. I mean, having mixed a couple of them and seen firsthand what the sessions are like and what you guys were doing, it's like it's really impressive. Like, obviously you guys are great, and I know and love you guys, but to see sort of the inner workings of a madman was
like mental.
Yeah.
Like, actually, the things he does, it's like, how have you thought of doing that?
Bro, when I opened Sucker Punch session, my like computer fan sounded like a plane was going to take off. I was like,
we did a session here the other day. We did a session here at mine, like, because obviously we're in like pretty much lockdown, and it was a couple of weeks ago before the rules were so tight. And so he set up his studio gear in here. We had like a bit of a fun sort of writing sort of production thing, sort of like low key, because you can't go to a big studio at the moment. And there was a moment where I turned around and was like, what is that noise? And it sounded like his computer was about to set on fire. And he was like, oh man, I'm doing too much. I'm doing too much. I need to just do some
low key.
What are you doing?
Low key mixing the songs I mixed on your record, I think killed my laptop, because it got too hot and like the battery expanded, and like it still works, but I had to get another computer. But
I sent it. Sending it to, because obviously I deal with a lot of that side of it, as you know. Like, we spoke so much through the mixing process, and I spoke to some people who were mixing, and they were like, I don't like, you don't need to have this many channels when you're making, why you're doing too much. I'm like, whoa, don't tell us how
Yeah,
what we should and shouldn't
yeah,
be doing. Like, this is, if we've put it in there and it's still in the session, find a place for it
right.
because we want it.
That was the approach I started taking, was like, holy, I like, initially it's like, holy crap, and then you like
Yeah.
you start combing through, you're like, oh, okay, this is here for a reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Totally.
I tip my hat to you guys, because it's, I mean, is really creative and fresh,
Yeah.
cool work.
I don't know how the man doesn't sleep at night, honestly. He literally, when he's making a record like that, he probably gets 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. He's just at it non-stop. Like, he's a madman.
Wow, that shows. I mean, good for him.
Yes. Yeah.
Hats off.
He's a lot of fun to work with. He's a lot of fun. And it's so nice to have someone who's just that passionate as well. You know, it's just, he makes it so much fun, and he's one of your brothers, but you know, nothing is off the table. If you've got an idea, no matter how ridiculous it is, he's there. He's going to try it with you. Like, fuck yeah, let's try it, sort of thing. It's never like, oh, can't do that. It's, you know,
that's the best kind of partner you can ask for, because I mean, really, it's like, I've had this conversation a lot recently, just because I've been, you know, talking to friends and about music and about production, and it's like, as an engineer or a producer, you're a guide. You're here to help guide the band to their end goal, and you know, you can't put yourself in front of that and go, oh no, that's a dumb fucking idea, I know what's right. It's like,
totally.
There's been so many times where, like, early in my career, sitting in the back of the room, when you're just you're there to not take up too much oxygen, but you're sitting there listening, and you'll hear a band member like throw an idea out, and you're like, oh Jesus, what? And then you know, 2 hours later, after you've like followed the thread through, you're like, oh yeah, that was a fucking great idea.
Great idea. I have it with other band members where I'm like, honestly, other band members where you're like, oh my God, are you serious right now? We're actually going to go down this like rabbit hole. And at the end, you're like, oh, I see what you were meaning now. Yeah, no, I totally understand it and I get it. And it's like, what a part that is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's no bad ideas until they're bad, you know?
Yeah. Until they've been fully deleted. And with Dan Austin, they're never deleted. He's always going to find a place or do some sort of crazy effect or something. It may turn him into a hi-hat.
Right. Yeah. I made this hi-hat loop for this other project I'm doing. So
yeah, literally. Yeah.
Oh man. Let's kind of switch up a little bit here and talk gear, or you know, we sort of touched on your drums a little bit, but what was your kit when you were tracking? Did you have we mentioned you kind of just had the same thing set up the whole for most of the time.
It was quite sort of like a versatile kit. And I think with what I've realized with working with Dan as well is that, you know, we had this Ludwig Vista Light, which was this hybrid kit, and just like a Black Beauty, like, you know, a classic snare drum that is so versatile. But from working with each other on a couple of records now, we know that, you know, taping a couple of crisp packets to a dampened, low-tuned snare can get you one sound, to cranking it up and putting, you know, like tea towels on it. But you don't need multiple kits, really. I use one kit the whole entire time. And it's also the fact of the amount of mics that he has on the drums, but then him choosing which mics to open and close at different moments. I mean, there's drum sounds on there, which some of them he's like, this is only 4 mics, but out of the 30 that are in the room or something.
Sure.
But then I've, you know, distorted this one and put this one in here and that one, and whatever he's doing to them, we can get a completely different drum sound from just choosing specific mics or the way that we're tuning one kit.
Yeah.
So we never really, I mean, when we've been in the UK and we've recorded together, we've had the luxury of having a couple of my kits and a few of my snares, and we'll try different things. But it's like you can get such different sounds just by changing up mic positions, mic placements, choosing which mics you want to use, which ones, you know, are you using the room mics? Are you close mic in the kit? Are, you know, whatever he has his setup, and then, you know, his effects and his style of recording after that, you you can change the drum sounds so vastly.
Yeah.
Just from that. I mean, literally the whole album is recorded on one drum kit. Just him then being creative with it, with the mics and the effects afterwards. So
yeah.
I think, and obviously knowing how to tune a kit is important, and sort of dampening and things like that, and tuning wise, whatever, makes a big difference. But yeah, we didn't really need a lot of equipment. Yeah, we sort of, it was set up, and we were like, honestly, we didn't even change drum heads once.
That's
5
awesome.
weeks.
Sick.
I think we changed the snare once.
Oh, okay.
And that's it.
That
the rest of it, we just went, nah, that'll do, man. It. That's it. That's cool. Don't worry about that.
I love it.
I've been in studios where you have, drum techs come in every other morning and tune your whole drums and that. And I'm sitting there while they're playing the kit like this.
Yeah.
And they're going, do they know what the song's about?
Yeah. Have they
Do they
heard
know
the song?
what sound I want to get for this song? Like what we're trying to achieve with this track? They don't. They're just trying to make a nice drum sound.
Right.
Maybe I don't want a nice drum sound. Maybe I want a fucking shit drum sound. It sounds trashy and crap and out of tune. And actually that honk on there, I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's, so it's like we're so involved with how everything sounds.
Right.
That like no one's touching that besides us 6. That's it. The 5 in the band and Dan Austin. That's it. We'll work it out.
Yeah. Now, I think that's a really that's a fun way to approach it, and I think honestly that can lead to the most creativity in the studio is when like we have this one fucking thing, and if we want another sound, we got to really work to get it. Not. Yeah. Oh, we've got 80 different snare drums that we can go grab, and then 10 different kick drums to swap in and out, and then you're gonna like go through the whole thing instead of this is our kit. Like let's figure it out. And then we've
wasted 3 hours of recording time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like within an hour and a half, we've probably just listened to music, talked about a drum sound. I've how am I going to recreate that drum sound? And it takes experience from being in the studio so many times. I'm then thinking, okay, how am I going to recreate that kind of drum sound that we want? We've listened to 3 or 4 other artists and gone, I like the drums on this, I like the drums on that, the snare on that's cool, the kick drums on that, blah blah blah. Within an hour and a half, we've done a drum track.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're not sat there figuring out what kick drum we should be using.
Right.
We're there, and there's no disrespect, because I love having the drum techs in the studios that we've worked with before. There's no disrespect to them whatsoever, but we're trying to create. We're being creative, and we're trying to create a vibe and trying to make a track.
Yeah, when you're trying to catch lightning, if you've spent 3 hours finding the right shells and the right brass, and then finding the right mic, it's the drummer's asleep on the couch already. Like.
I'm thinking about what time's dinner and when it's like beer sort of thing.
You've lost
I've lost it.
Enthusiasm for what we just had. But if you go, hey, what about this? And you can go straight to the kit, and we're like, hey, we're in the red, let's go. Then you just ride the momentum.
I'm starting to play beats then, already within 10, 20 minutes, realistically, I'm playing beats over these tracks, and I can hear him in the cans starting to affect things up. And it's getting livelier and livelier in my cans, which is inspiring me.
That influences you.
And then my beats are changing. It's influencing what I'm doing. And he's there.
Yeah.
I can see him in there doing his thing. And then it's going, fucking hell, that's what that kick drum sounds like now in there.
Yeah.
And I'm, it's changing the way I'm playing. And that's how these sort of beats that we create. And that's how the bed of the song comes alive.
Yeah.
Our challenge was always to try and make the drum track interesting enough that you wanted to listen to it from start to finish without any other instrument on.
Right.
Is it that journey? Could you listen to that at the start and be like, we used to call it, that's an all day beat. Could you listen to that all day?
Oh yeah.
If you stuck it on, could you listen to that all day? And that's an all day beat. That's an all day loop, or like a verse loop of the drums. That's an all day loop. I could listen to that all day, sort of thing. And that was always the challenge. Is it interesting enough for us to listen to without any other music?
Right. That's the bar.
And if it is, that's the bar. That's the bar you're setting.
That's fascinating. I like that. That's a good way to approach not just drums, but everything else that you're doing. Is like, does this meet the standard? And then once, like, if they all do, I mean, just the song's gonna fucking rip, right?
You're flying. So, yeah, exactly.
Sort of.
It's so much fun, man. It's so much fun.
It sounds like a blast. Like just watching you get excited talking about it is getting me excited about like recording. Like,
Yeah.
I wish we could have.
Hopefully we can do it together again one day, man. I mean, imagine that come over as well and like be in the room like with Dan Austin and seeing it and being involved with it. Like, oh, it'd be so fucking cool.
That'd be
because he was, you know, obviously after you being involved in this record as well, he was like, man, we've got to try and get something together. So hopefully in the not so distant future.
Oh man, I'm there. I'd fucking love it. That's a dream. That'd be great. Sort of piggybacking off of the gear talk, is there a piece of gear, either drum or audio related, that you're particularly lusting after lately?
Lusting after?
Yeah, not so much like need or want, but just like or like.
To be honest, being in here, my interface isn't the greatest, and like recording drums, they can be a little bit flat and a little bit plastic, is what I like to call it. It doesn't come alive. So, in terms of on a selfish point of me in this studio, I think I would love some of the Apollo, the interfaces that they have, just purely because I just know how great they sound. Max has got the Twin, and that's like amazing, obviously. I think, what is it? The 8XP would be really cool for me to have, because then I could. That's what we're talking through now. Yeah. So that's kind of the one that I would sort of. I just before we started making Sucker Punch, I was trying to sort of get hold of one there and sort of, and you know, just was thinking, okay, should I invest in this for now? And ended up not at the moment, but hopefully in the not so distant future, I'll be getting hold of that. Just because I think, you know, I've got a great little room here, and actually from recording with Dan here a couple of weeks ago, even with the equipment that I've got here, it sounded so cool considering that this used to be a garage. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So having something like that, I think, would really sort of give the recordings and the drums especially a bit more depth to them, you know? For sure. And creativity. The stuff you're able to do now with an Apollo on the way in is like fucking mind blowing. I'll send you some drum tracks that I recorded here in my tiny little spot that are like it's all track to tape that way, and it's like it's shit you can't do with Pro Tools. It's so it's so rad, man. I've become like, I mean, I've always been tight with UA, but in the last like year I've been like an evangelist for like, you got to get an Apollo, you got to try Luna. This seems to be sort of the reoccurring theme of like the people I've talked to doing this, or like inevitably we rant about how fucking great their stuff is. I need to get on board, man. I need to, for sure. Well, maybe we can facilitate at least an introduction. That would be great. Let's move to I want to do some like quick rapid fire questions, if you're cool. Cool. Let me see what I wrote down here. Favorite bad 80s or 90s action movie? 80s or 90s action movie? Do you know what? I've always hated action movies. I just never ever got into them. Matt Barnes is into like Steven Seagal, I'm going to say, sort of, what's it, Under Siege or something like that is what I'll go for. I've never even seen it, but that's what Barnesy would say. That would be his guilty pleasure. I'm not sure what's happened to Steven Seagal recently. I heard that he's been naughty boy. I don't really keep up with his life, but apparently he's a bit of a taboo these days. I don't know. I don't know. He's just, do you know what? Dildo. I've always had this cheesy action movie hate. I've never even seen Die Hard. Never seen it. Wow. No. All right. Well, what about guilty pleasure movie then? You got a guilty pleasure where you're like, oh, all right, I'll watch this when it's on. Guilty pleasure movie. I mean, obviously, with it just being Christmas, I want to say, but I mean, it's just classic. You can't say Elf. It's not guilty pleasure. I'm fully on board with that. No. To be honest, do you know what's embarrassing enough is that my sister reminded me the other day how much we used to watch that movie, Bring It On, when I was a kid. Yeah. And the embarrassing thing is that she spoke to me about that on the phone the other day, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh my God, I still would know all of the words to like all the dances and the raps that they used to do in Bring It On. That's fucking amazing. And as a 31-year-old man who's trying to be like rock and roll, that's highly embarrassing. So that's probably very guilty there. I'm having like a flashback of that movie. It doesn't one of them have like a brother that plays guitar? Yes, yeah. I remember like a scene with like a flying V or some shit, and he's like, yeah. Terrible. See that?
I'm obviously displaying an intimate knowledge of the movie as well, so I've clearly seen it too many times.
Everyone's seen it.
What was the last album or song you've downloaded or streamed?
The last album or song that I've downloaded or streamed. We were just listening to J. Cole in we're signing the final few. We're doing the personalized versions of the Sucker Punch album today. So
Sick.
these are the final ones to go out for tomorrow. So, or people who have requested sort of like personalized messages or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just listening to J. Cole and Anderson .Paak.
Nice.
Those
sick.
two. So that's what we've kind of had on the go between those two guys there.
Nice.
That's what we've had there.
Favorite meal?
Favorite meal all day, spaghetti bolognese. Boom. Easy.
That was fast. That was easy. I like it.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Dream car?
Dream car, Porsche 911.
Year? New?
Bad boy. I think probably like the GT3, I would say about the 2004 era was my favorite.
Beauty.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Porsche, there's something about them.
Oh.
Yeah, naughty. All right. I was going to ask something else, but actually I'm going to pull a fast one. Studio advice for young bands going into the studio for the first time. What would you tell them now that you've got the experience and you've been through it?
I would say first and foremost, try and keep calm. Like it can be so intense. I think even by our third record, we were in, Sunset Sound and Sound Factory in LA, NRG, obviously being in Studio D, a Blackbird,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to just go in and just try and remember the reason. If you're in a studio like that, even if you're not in a studio like that, even when we've been in smaller studios there before, if you're there and, you're working with a producer and you've got the songs, you should be confident enough in yourself that just take a breath before you do something, and have some confidence in yourself, and try and enjoy the process, because a lot of them can fly by so quickly, and the next thing you're finished and you're like, oh my God, I didn't even have time to enjoy it. I was shitting myself the whole time. So, and remember that actually the studio is the place where you can make as many mistakes as you want.
Right.
You don't have to play it perfectly. You're not playing live. There's no one, there's no audience there. It's about getting exactly what you have in your head down on your instrument, how you want it to be done. So this is your creative process. Don't be bullied by any producers or or wasting time, or, you need to get it right. Obviously don't take the piss,
Right.
If you're there 3 days later and you can't play the drums, then maybe you should have practiced some more, but go in prepared as well, go in prepared. But I think ultimately, this is about your creativity coming out. So you have some confidence in yourself and learn as well. There's no better place to do than to sit back and listen and learn from other people around you. Because if they've done it a lot more than you have, then you can probably learn a lot from them. Yeah,
that's great advice. I think, like a young band coming in, even if you're coming into just like a regional studio and a regional producer, the amount of records they've made compared to your one that you're coming in to make now is drastically different. So ask questions and try to come up to speed faster, so the next time you make a record it's better. And
my God, the more questions you ask, the better. Even if you start to annoy the person, obviously judge when they're busy or whatever, but the amount of times now, especially now that I'm into production side of things, I'm sat there going, well, what are you doing there? What are you doing that for there? And I want to learn, well, what the fuck is that over there that you've got going on there? What order did you have that in?
So why is it like this?
So yeah, exactly. The more you're going to learn from it, aren't you? I think it's all a learning process.
No, I think that's all really good advice, and that actually just the enjoyment part sort of brought me back to making Night People. And I remember just sort of the day that it was done and you guys were leaving, it was kind of this moment of oh yeah, I wish you weren't leaving. I remember us all being sad of well, I guess that's it now. I'll see it. in a way,
See you in another time. Yeah,
yeah,
that's it. And that's it. I mean, we spent all of that time together, such an intense period of time, and then you don't really see each other ever again.
yeah. It's an interesting thing, and to take a beat and enjoy it, I think, is an important thing. That I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it took me a long time to come to that. Because I mean, to be fair, a lot of the times you're so concerned with not fucking up that you're like,
yeah,
you're here the whole time, and then it's like
yeah,
if you don't step out
yeah.
of yourself for a second and like, oh, this is actually pretty fucking cool. Like
Yeah, and
taking that.
especially when you're a young musician as well, thinking that same thing is almost like you get a bit of imposter syndrome, especially when you're young, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm in Sunset Sound with this producer. I'm like 20 years old. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
the fuck am I actually doing? Like, they're gonna figure out that I'm not actually very good at this kind of thing." And
Yeah,
sit back and relax and enjoy it. They're there to help you and facilitate what you are here to create. So you're all on the same team at the end of the day. That's
yeah.
the thing.
We're all working towards the same thing, and the imposter
Yeah,
syndrome. That's something I keep like that keeps coming up. I mean, I feel like,
yeah,
I mean,
I know.
I still am like,
Same.
what the fuck am I doing? Anyways,
I know. I know. Same. Christ.
um,
15 years later, I'm still get it.
I know I had a moment last night. I was like, why am I? Who's gonna even fucking care about this? Anyways,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. God, me too.
so since I'm sort of calling this podcast or interview, what I keep saying this. I have no idea what this is. I just like it was an
Yeah.
excuse to talk to friends and catch up and ask
Fuck
questions.
yeah.
And
Let's do it. I mean, yeah, I'm having a great time.
since I'm sort of calling this one more for safety, and if you've been in the studio before, you've heard that a million fucking times.
Yeah, it was perfect. Go again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was great. Let's do one more just for safety, just so
Yeah.
we have it.
Yeah.
This is sort of my one more for safety question here. So, if you had a consequence-free time machine, as in you don't have to worry about any butterfly effect or whatever bullshit happening, what era of your life would you go back to, and what would you tell your younger self?
Oh God, so difficult. What era of time would I go back to? I think I would go back to. Oh man, it's so hard. That's such a difficult question. What era of time would I go back to in my life and tell myself differently? Do you know what? It's because I'm one of these people that does sort of believe that everything kind of just sort of works itself out and has its own place, and like you have to make. I think the trouble is we're trying to fix any mistakes going back. It's almost like, would I be the person that I am today? So I find that really difficult. I think I would probably go back and advise myself at the very start for the first few records when I'm first couple of records and I'm young and all I do is play drums, get into rehearsal studio, play drums. I would probably go back to sort of like my college era or sort of early 20s and start to say, learn another instrument alongside it. Because now I sit here and like I'm now 30 years old, like learning my key signatures and my chords and like notes and melodies and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was in college and someone was trying to teach you the circle of fifths every day.
Yeah.
And you weren't interested.
Couldn't be fucked to care.
Go back then. Couldn't be music theory. When the hell am I going to learn that? Now I've got some app every day that I'm like looking. Oh, okay, my circle of fifths. That's the type of thing I think I'd go back and just scrub up on that and really learn piano or guitar or another instrument alongside what you're doing, because it's now that I'm sort of really benefiting from that the most. So yeah. I think that's what I'd say to myself.
That's fair. That's a good answer. I mean, having asked this question a couple of times, I'm starting to kind of see the same, or think about it in the same way that you mentioned it. It's like if somebody asked me that, I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm kind of fucking like I wouldn't be here if I changed much. Like I think things worked out pretty cool.
I know. Yeah, that's it.
Anything to plug? I mean, obviously the record comes out. Well, tomorrow this will probably be out that day. Yeah,
tomorrow. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this evening it'll be out at midnight. So yeah, Friday the 15th, I guess it is. So yeah, that's it. I mean, if anyone that's watched this is interested in listening to the album that we've just been talking about, really, and in the process of making it, then it's called Sucker Punch. And yeah, they should. It's in all good retail stores now.
Hey, all right. Instagram.
Instagram, I'm welcome to Flint Town is my Instagram. Obviously, we've got the Yumi at 6 Instagram as well, which is Yumi at 6 official. And yeah.
Well, this was a blast, man. I'm thankful you did this, and it was awesome to catch up and good to see your face. So I hope to get to see you.
To be
soon.
honest, we would have enjoyed doing this whether we filmed it or not. So I mean, we might as well film it and make it interesting for other people to watch too. So what a great thing! I've really enjoyed it, man. It's good to catch up.
That's good, man. Thanks so much. I'll hit you up soon.
Sounds good, brother.
See you, man. Thank you.
Take care.